Okay, we're going to be back. That I think is recognized by millions. And his part is recognized by millions as Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. But it's kind of an image that this gentleman would like to shed. Please welcome to AM San Francisco a very, very personable young man. What is his name again? Mark Hamill. I've got to tell you, Mark, I can really empathize with what you and I think quite a few other actors have been through when they've done something that everyone relates to. They get kind of put into a bag. With you, it was Luke Skywalker. With me, many years ago, I did the weather, and I did it for quite a few years, and everybody said, oh, you're the weather girl, aren't you, after I'd been doing news for a long time. It's kind of difficult to get out of a bag, isn't it?
Well, the actors, it's a kind of a paradox because you struggle for years to be recognized as anything.
Yeah.
And once you find yourself sort of boxed in, I realized when I read the script of Star Wars that I served a specific purpose. It wasn't my job to be the cynical sort of modern voice that Harrison Ford is, nor was it to be the fussy, fastidious golden robot that Anthony Daniels was. But I was perfectly happy to be a part of it, to work with George Lucas and people like Sir Alec Guinness and be able to travel to England and Africa and work on a feature film with people that talented. But it's not so much a conscious decision to change my image as it is to explore my boundaries as an actor.
Your potential.
Sure. So I'm very excited about Amadeus. I auditioned for it like any other actor. I mean, Sir Peter Hall would not be influenced by the films to say, hey, let's get the kid from Star Wars in Amadeus. They don't need that.
That's true.
The play stands on its own.
Right. For those of you who are not aware, of course, Mark is in San Francisco performing at the Golden Gate Theater in Amadeus, which is about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. A totally different part from what you dealt with in Star Wars, certainly. And
really a lot of fun.
And it's a lot of fun, right? But you've done a lot of things. I mean, when did the acting bug, as they say, bite you?
I did plays in high school, really, and I think it was a matter of finding a way to communicate with people in the sense that I wasn't a football player. You know, I wasn't really involved in student politics, and I could hide behind characters and not take responsibility for those characters, because I would say that, well, that's not me. It was a lot of fun. I just enjoyed it. And my father was in the Navy, so we moved from school to school, and you didn't have long to establish yourself. You know, if you sit in the back of the classroom and don't really sort of draw attention to yourself, you can become just a faceless non-entity. And it was just a way of having fun, and I was sort of steered into it by teachers who didn't like, you know, sort of talking out loud in class or making jokes. They said, you know, do it legitimately, right?
Sure.
Not in English class, but...
You were involved, in fact, haven't you had like 140 parts or something? Or is that, did I see that statistic someplace?
Well, we actually did count, but I mean, that's counting like 51 episodes of General Hospital as 51 different jobs instead of one job.
Okay, for those who you didn't realize that he was on General Hospital, how many years ago was that?
In 1971, I played Jesse Brewer's nephew. That was before it was so popular. So.
Okay. What was that like as an experience, as an actor?
Well, it was great. I mean, it was the closest thing to live television, this aside, of course.
Oh, sure.
But there were no retakes. You know, you went straight on. And it was learning new scripts every day, and I think it's a tremendous experience for an actor.
But we were talking in the dressing room earlier about soap operas and how sometimes the parts aren't really very consistent. Weren't you originally as a kid?
I was originally a brat. I was put on the show just to antagonize Aunt Jessie. And I was such a creep. I really was a terrible person. And they decided to make another fellow the villain in our household. Teddy Holmes was his name. And so instantly, in like one script, I went from being this juvenile delinquent with a toothpick saying, hey, get out of my life, all right? to calling up Aunt Jessie and saying, Aunt Jessie, I'm going to be a little late for dinner. I just wanted to let you know so you wouldn't worry. All in one
Doesn't
script.
make any sense.
No explanation whatsoever. And when I asked why this was so, they said, don't ask questions. Just get out there and do it.
Just do it. Okay.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
And then you got written out, or what?
I was sent off to a military academy.
I see. They have such great ways of resolving things on soap operas. It's wonderful. Now, how did you get into the Star Wars thing in the first place?
Again, I just auditioned. It was what they call a cattle call, which means there's 50 to 100 actors. They saw everyone about, I guess, between the ages of 15 and 40 for both Han Solo and Luke. And we didn't see a script, really. We knew it had to do something with space.
Yeah. Is that because George Lucas has this thing about being very secretive about his production?
Well, I think with good reason, too, because in just the nature of our business, when something successful happens...
Everybody wants a copy.
Sure. It happened with American Graffiti.
Now, you're, of course, going to be in the third part of the trilogy. It's called...
Revenge of the Jedi. I signed for 3 films originally. It was meant to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it won't go on and on and on and on like James Bond or something.
Not for you, anyway.
Not for me.
Yeah.
The other stories they're talking about take place 50 years before and 50 years after the story that you're being told now.
Okay. What is George Lucas like to work with?
Well, he's wonderful. He's very different from what you expect. You know.
In what way? I don't know what to expect.
Well, in the sense, you always think of the cigar chomping, sweetie baby booby guy. I guess. But
the old stereotype of it.
Right. But he's wildly imaginative, obviously. He's very funny. He's very kind. He's very easygoing and pretty shy, really. He's not demonstrative. He's not loud. He has someone else that he nudges someone and they say, action!
Yes, they're the loud person.
Right, because he would say, action, and nobody would hear him.
That's right. And you've got to be heard, like Wayne Dyer says, right? Well, obviously, you are into new things. Star Wars is something of the present and the past, but we're getting into some exciting new things with Mark Hamill, and that is Amadeus. And when we come back, we'll discuss that with him. Let's see a little clip.
Is General Hospital's newest heartthrob soon to be a millionaire? Find out Wednesday on AM.
Taking care of a family is a tough job, but it could be a lot tougher.
Think of as Luke Skywalker, but this week and until February 27th, definitely we're going to think of you as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, because you're playing in Amadeus at the Golden Gate Theater in San Francisco, and we're taking a look at some clips here. Can you set up, what is it all about? What are we going to learn about Mozart in this?
Peter Schaffer, the author, was originally a music critic and had heard of the rumor that Mozart was poisoned by a lesser composer who was driven to that act by jealousy, Antonio Salieri, who's really the central character, John Wood. Mozart is really an excellent supporting role, but it's mostly a conflict between Salieri and God, because Mozart, through his letters and the biographies we have of him, was not the perfect porcelain figure that we've seen. In the 19th century, there was a tendency to glorify his life and portray him more like his music, when in fact he was a lover of earthy humor. He loved to drink wine and play billiards. He used to play like he was a cat. He used to play like he was a monkey. He would jump up on furniture.
Person.
He loved to jump up on furniture and do cartwheels.
This is a different role for you, isn't it?
Well, I mean, whenever you see anyone in that kind of, in the powdered wigs and the lacy jackets and so forth, I mean, I think we just have an image of that era, that they were much different than we are now.
You're excited about doing this, Bob?
Very much so. When I first heard about the play, I thought Mozart was probably 55 or 60 or so forth. I had no idea that he died at 35. I had no knowledge of opera or of his life. Or of his life. Somebody help me. I can't talk this early anymore.
Yeah, I wanted to find out, do you like working in the films, or would you rather stay with live stage, or are you going to go to TV, or what?
When I was in school, that's all you did was play, and the audience is such a tremendous, they tell you instantly where you are. And with films, you do the film, and then it's in the hands of the editors and the sound mixers and all that, and it might be 18 months later that you see the result. I think I'd like to continue in theater if I could, and hopefully age gracefully into a character actor. You know, I would much rather play a really interesting supporting part than a bland leading person. Well, thanks very much, Mom.
Mark, has your physical appearance ever hurt you, do you think? Because you do look young.
Well,
not that you're old, you're only 31.
I'm constantly surprised that you might be denied an interview because you don't look Jewish. Well, I went to Israel, and there are more blonde-haired, blue-eyed Israelis there than there are...
Explain by what you mean by that.
Well, I was denied an interview for a film I wanted to go out for because I didn't look Jewish enough.
Okay.
And I didn't understand that reasoning. I mean, isn't the film is the art of illusion anyway? What happened to contact lenses or dyeing your hair?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I've read where you've done a film called Britannia Hospital with Malcolm McDowell.
Right.
Is that going to be released in America?
It's out in England and Australia. It's directed by Lindsay Anderson, who did If and Oh Lucky Man. And quite honestly, I did it for free. It was 4 or 5 days. It's a very small cameo. It's just for fun. But it is very, very English. It's sort of Dr. Strangelove set in a hospital. Malcolm has a leading role, but I have sort of a, what do they call this? It's like Around the World in 80 Days or something. They go, whoops, there went Sophia Loren.
That's a cameo. Go ahead.
Did you find playing in The Elephant Man a physical as well as a mental challenge?
Yes, absolutely. And again, I approached it as if no one had ever played the role and they hadn't made a film of it. I tried to make it new for myself. What a tremendous man he was. I mean, to see beauty in everything and not be bitter, even to the people that tortured him throughout his life. He was truly, I think, a saint through his actions. A beautiful man, and it was really a wonderful experience to work with Carol Shelley, and again, to get back on stage after 9 years or whatever it was.
Go ahead.
I believe you mentioned that you were in the Navy, and some of us in the audience are from military families, and we wondered how this has affected you. You're moving around the country, and if you feel it has had any profound effect in your life.
Well, there's great truth in what you say. I wasn't actually signed up into the service.
A Navy family.
Right.
Yes.
But that's pretty much like being in the
Yes,
Navy,
it
isn't it? Well, I don't know. It probably helped me because, like I say, if you move around every 2 years, it's a very chameleon-like experience because you see what might be accepted in California, you move to New York City and they don't know what you're talking about. I think it helped me adjust to meeting people and new situations and new environments.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad I was a Navy brat.
We are, too. It's been wonderful having you. It's been very interesting.
Is it all over here?
It's all over.
Really?
I'm afraid so. But, of course, we're all going to go see Amadeus, aren't we, at the Golden Gate Theater here in San
Memorize
Francisco.
all your faces.
Oh, yeah. I'll see you Saturday night. I'm going to go see it with Fred. And, of course, that is the Golden Gate Theater. For tickets, you can call 775-8800. And the performance will be here through February 27th. And, actually, he'd like to have it extended so his wife can have her baby in San Francisco. She's due March 3rd.
Up to you.
Thank you, Mark Hamill.